With this, we will move to our next session, which is about presentation of reports on LSDGs and Panchayat Development Index, which will be presented by Anode Governance Lab team. Introducing Anode Governance Lab, it is committed to strengthening governance and enabling public institutions to function effectively, especially at the village level, with a strong belief in capacities of people to identify and prioritize their development agenda. The presentation will be done by Ms. Sonali Srivastav and her team member Padma. And introducing Sonali, I would say that as an organizational development practitioner, Sonali leads, designs and manages complex change management interventions across corporate, government and non-government organizations. With a strong belief in capacities of people, she set up Anode to help stimulate, activate and mainstream local institutions towards inclusive and effective governance. She has been instrumental in conceptualizing the Gram Panchayat organization development framework, which is a process-driven approach to develop organization capacitates of rural local governance. Sonali is a founder and CEO to Anode Governance Lab. With this, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you at the podium.
Good morning, everyone. So we present to you the two big reports which have been developed over the last year on the localization of sustainable development goals and on Panchayat Development Index. This work has been done, I think, by the ministry and the expert committees which are formed, which Mr. Sunil Kumar mentioned about. It's extremely exhaustive, and I hope to do justice to the contents of the report. Just before we go into the report, I wanted to mention that we have liberally taken contents from the report and the figures. These are both about 1,000 pages each, and it seemed to sort of make sense to borrow from the report rather than keep on making new figures, and so we have done that too. We have taken care to be loyal to the contents of the report. There are some reflections. We've been working in the field for too long to not accommodate that. I just wanted to acknowledge PRADAN. I'm thankful that we have taken this as a theme for this Samagam, because it's extremely imperative that we acknowledge the role of local governments in SDGs. So the fact that PRADAN has taken it in this theme at Samagam is very heartening for us also, because we love local governments, we love to work with panchayats. So the whole theme itself was something that inspired us to work further. I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Vijay Anand, who couldn't come here today, Sudhir from PRADAN, Sukanto, Sarbani and Suparno. They went through our iterations, they went through our reports, and they kept giving us feedback over the last couple of several weeks. I want to acknowledge my colleague Padma and the team from MXV who are here for rapporteuring also, who've put in like night outs trying to summarize the reports of these 1,000 pages each. What I'll try to do, so the first time when I gave the first draft to Sudhir from PRADAN, and he said, Sonali, we need a summary of summaries. This itself is very long. So I said, I got it. Let me see if the presentation slides serve that purpose. So we are trying to do that. And we will touch upon the concepts of localized SDGs. Then we will move to the Panchayat Development Index, which has been basically is based on the LSDG. We'll also talk about panchayats in India. There are most people here are very aware of the 73rd Amendment, but there may be some because this is a group of people from the corporate sector, from the CSRs. So I just sort of allowed ourselves a couple of slides on the panchayats, and we will talk a little about data. Which Mr. Sunil Kumar also mentioned. So as to how we are going to actually look at, making data available to all. So yeah, without much ado, I'll move to the next. So this is actually a monumental effort. We are talking about localizing SDGs to 2.63 lakh panchayats across the country. There is no alternative to doing this, because I don't think something like this can be achieved at a country as large as India, as diverse as India, without actually taking this to the levels of the institutions. So, I mean, a huge sort of shout out for NITI Aayog, to the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, to all the other ministries who are going to be working on this and are working on this, as well as, you know, the entire civil society, the corporates, academia, and the citizens at large. Everybody has to get involved, and the term that they have used nicely is the whole of government and whole of society. Without this, it will not be possible. Very briefly, the context: India is a signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 in number. The UN has set 169 targets, and there are 231 distinct global indicators for that. Basis that, India has framed a national indicator framework. It's been evolving. The latest version, which is 3.0 in 2022, has also got 169 indicators and 286 targets. Where are we as against the SDGs? We are ranked 112th out of 168. The index score is 63.5, and something called a spillover in score, which we are trying to Google, which says basically that does India have a positive or a negative spillover on other countries, and I believe we have a fairly positive score on that, as you can see. We are on track on 2 SDGs. We are moderately improving in 9, stagnating in 4, and a downward trend in 2. Just quickly jumping to panchayats in the country. You know, these are, as I mentioned, that unless we involve them, these panchayats will not, the SDGs, I don't think, will be able to see the light of the day, or as to the extent that we want. These are local governments. Panchayats can be sized between 1,000 people population to 50,000 in states like Kerala, 1,000 people in states like Uttar Pradesh, sometimes Chhattisgarh, smaller panchayats. 30 lakh elected members, and it always gives me goosebumps. I mean, have entered the political fray. These are men and women in villages who have not entered politics, who don't know anything about politics, and people have started entering. And we'll meet a few of them when you see in the next session when I'm moderating on grounds theories. So this itself is a huge, huge potential for getting people who hitherto were not, you know, open, or they did not have access to a whole lot of development language, you know, models, etc., that we are talking about. Now they are entering this fray. And they have been entering, I mean, they have entered since 1993 when the Constitutional Amendment was act. These are equal representations of men and women, mostly. So just to look at the map, you have 6 odd lakh villages with 2.5 lakh panchayats, and then they are segregated into block panchayats, districts, and then the state and union territories. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment, which was passed in 1993, gave powers to the panchayats. In fact, the powers are given to states. Panchayat is a state subject, and powers are given to states to devolve. The language is devolved, which means these are the subjects which panchayats can actually work on. So there are 29 such subjects which have been devolved, or the states can decide. So some states have devolved more, some have devolved less, depending on their faith and you know, the capacities of panchayats there in those states. But these are the subjects. So if you see those subjects, agriculture, social forestry, spanning from those to subjects like libraries, subjects like family welfare. So panchayats can and have a strong role in impacting each of these sectors, or subjects as they are called. This figure also is actually very large figure of 400,000 crores. Can be impacted if a panchayat functions well. This is the amount of funds of rural development schemes, central sector schemes in the country, which can be impacted positively if panchayats function well. So as you can see the schemes there, there's NREGA, which everybody here must have heard of. There is social assistance programs, which are basically pensions to old age, disability, widow, etc. There's health mission, there is Gram Sadak Yojana, Swachh Bharat mission, Jal Jeevan mission, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, PM Poshan, PM Awas, PM Krishi Sachai. So spanning across all these schemes are basically being implemented at the village level. And who governs villages is basically panchayats. So each of these programs can be positively impacted if panchayats work well. So that is a scene for us. That's the scene that we are setting. That if the panchayat has, maybe on paper, and some panchayats sort of capture that space very well, some don't. But if that is the status, a constitutional status of panchayats, then the global to the national to the local becomes imperative. And we have, therefore, what has evolved as a local indicator framework, which is referred to again and again in the reports called the LIF, and which contains 9 themes, which Mr. Sunil Kamar also was talking about. Zero hunger, livelihoods, engendered panchayats, etc. And these are translated to 168 targets and 389 indicators. These are all evolving. Through the reports, we kept seeing different numbers, and sometimes we were trying to get consistency, then we gave up hope because they are evolving. So it's fine. I mean, if you see in our summaries also, you may find some different numbers sometimes. It's not because we are making errors. It's just that the numbers are actually evolving. And these are the 9 themes that we talked about. And these 9 themes, the font is a bit slow, I think, but basically it is to help people in rural areas to be able to identify with the SDGs. So the 17 SDGs, out of which 13 could be positively impacted by if panchayats work on those, and they are then translated into these 9 themes. So these are basically poverty-free, healthy village, child-friendly village, water-sufficient village, clean and green village, self-sufficient infrastructure, socially secured villages, good governance, and women-friendly, which is also called the engendered development at panchayats. So the LIF is also aligning with the subjects that I just mentioned earlier. So if you see, these are not something new that the panchayats have to work on. Each theme, which is derived from the SDGs, is actually sort of a combination of many subjects that the panchayat was already supposed to look at, and which is in some sense is good because the subjects are, like they could be silos. Okay, I have to work on agriculture, I have to work on water, etc. But if you look at the themes, they combine those. So it becomes that the meaning of those themes become far more relevant to the people. Those numbers here, you'll keep seeing them because there are numbers across the reports, which is basically for poverty-free and enhanced livelihoods. There are 21 targets and 40 indicators. Similarly, for healthy village, 14 targets and 26 indicators at the panchayat level. So basically, the components of the LIF, which is a local indicator framework, are themes. Each theme is then sort of elaborated as a vision, and from the vision there are modified Gram Panchayat level targets, and then there are indicators. So that is the way the LIF is followed. It's founded on the SDGs, founded on the national targets, founded on indicators of that at the national level, and also they are aligned with the GP subjects, as I was just mentioning. It is supported by the many government schemes and programs, both at center and state, with data, without which it will not be possible, and of course the whole of government and whole of society approach that we're talking about, multiple stakeholders. So this is just an example. So the theme is water sufficient village. 2 SDGs are basically linked to this, or it's derived from these 2 SDGs. The vision of this particular theme is a village with functional house tap connections to all, with targeted standard of quality water supply, groundwater management, and abundant availability for agriculture and all needs, and conserving its water ecosystem. The number of GP level subjects are also put there, and these are the number of indicators that have been, so providing access to clean water to all households. The indicator could be percentage of functional household with water supply. So one of the other indicators which we have also seen many other times is per capita supply of water, which is the LPCD, liters per capita per day, is also one of the indicators which is coming also in the LIF, which is a local indicator framework. For SDGs, now how does a Panchayat experience SDGs, localized SDGs? So Panchayats annually prepare what is called a Gram Panchayat Development Plan. And these plans are to be based on the priorities of Panchayats, based on what is called a resource envelope, which is the money which is available to Panchayats directly and through the various programs and schemes of the government. So each Panchayat in the last, that's 23-24 GPDP, was asked to choose 2 or 3 themes and mandatorily one theme to base their Gram Panchayat development plan on. And this is just an example from Arargaon Panchayat. The Sarpanch is going to be here, she's sitting there. And she shared with us that, we worked on this theme. We didn't know the indicators, but we know what it is, right? So we know what is a clean and green village. So based on the priorities of our panchayats, we decided these activities, which made a lot of sense to me. I said, I'll not show her the indicators because this is enough for her to know that this theme is important. So they talked about construction of public toilets, farmers' cooperatives, segregation of dry and wet garbage, plantation of trees and other activities. I've just listed a few. So this is the way the panchayats are going to understand the localization, because they will otherwise not know. These are words, right? Now, just to set a context to this, it's not that immediately after we have done the localization of SDGs, all problems at panchayats are solved, and they are now set to deliver everything that we have asked them to do. So what I'm going to show you in the next slide is actually not just in the context of localization of SDGs. It is in the context of panchayats at large. There are challenges that panchayats face. The first big challenge is basically there is inadequate devolution. Which means what? Which means that the states are supposed to devolve subjects to panchayats, saying this is your area to work on, to deliver. We have not done that well. We have done it, half-heartedly. What we have also done is we have said, okay, you will look after agriculture, but I'll not tell you what in agriculture you should do. I'll not give you the functionaries for agriculture. I'll not give you the money for agriculture, but please look at agriculture. So the panchayats have no idea. We worked in Jharkhand with PRADAN very closely, and we said, education is devolved to panchayats. And said, oh really? So what are we supposed to do? Then we started looking at the acts and the notifications, and then he said, you should ensure enrollment of children, you should ensure attendance. And then we actually sat with them, completely analyzed the legal framework on the act, on the notifications, and then the panchayat started to understand what is their role in education. So if we don't do that, devolution is just going to be a word. And when we keep on talking about capacity of panchayats, actually it's the lack of devolution which is causing that. And I'll sort of try to explain that. This is our thinking. I hope, this is not completely from the report, although the report does talk about a lot of, on each of these subjects quite substantively. Because of lack of devolution, and I think sir also mentioned earlier, what happens is every ministry is implementing till the village level. So they have staff till the district, maybe at the block. And we don't need data at the Gram Panchayat, because I'm not implementing at the Gram Panchayat, I'm not implementing along with the Panchayat. So there is lack of local data, local Gram Panchayat level data, barring a few schemes and programs like Manrega, maybe Jal Jeevan Mission. Most programs and schemes have no disaggregated data till the Panchayat level. So what happens with that? People keep saying citizens are not involved in governance. Why should I be? I mean, I have no information. I don't know what my panchayat is doing. I don't have any data on what programs and schemes, what money is being spent in my panchayat. So it's very difficult to sort of engage in a framework where I'm supposed to come and say, okay, this year, please tell us what your priorities are, then we'll ask you next year. Till then, don't bother. So we are talking about weak citizen engagement, which is, I think, a function or an outcome of many of these things rather than just, just a fact per se. And that, in my mind, leads to limited capacities. So I don't think I would like to, so a lot of times we start with limited capacities of panchayats, and then we say, it is because of this. I would say the capacities of panchayats are starting from lack of devolution, lack of data, because of which there's lack of citizen engagement, and then for the institutional capacities of panchayats, nobody is inspired to really work there then. I mean, of course, there are fantastic success stories right now, but I'm just giving a more generic thing for making a point here. So I feel the PDI, which is what the next topic I'll move to, is actually going to address one of the big core issues in these challenges. That if you actually start looking at data at panchayats, which it is making mandatory, then the ministries and the departments will have to be sort of, they will have to start, so the devolution, the whole cycle will actually get impacted. So data at panchayat level is going to make a huge shift to this, is what I think, and has a huge potential. So this is a Panchayat Development Index. As I mentioned, Gram Panchayats need data at village, ward and habitation levels. So I want to know when I'm planning, how many hand pumps are working effectively. So in a Chhattisgarh Panchayat where there's only 1,000 people, it may be easy to do. But in a Kerala Panchayat or a Karnataka or West Bengal, you need data to do that. So how many people with disabilities have yet to receive disability pension? I should have that data. I'm not supposed to go on every year, go house to house and collect that data. It's not feasible, right? How many subsistence farmers have access to seeds in my panchayat? So data like this is something that should be readily available to a Gram Panchayat, basis on which they should start planning. So this is, because of lack of such data, what happens at panchayats is there's a lot of opinion-based planning. The dominant groups of panchayats prevail in terms of planning, or like Sir mentioned, that you could have the secretary and the sarpanch decide and finish it off, because who's going to engage with all this when I don't have information? Because of which eligible people may be left out, and there is low priority on low cost and high priority indicators. There's priority on highly visible infrastructure, etc. So the Panchayat Development Index, if it can actually potentially provide this data to the panchayats, that is a big gap that it's going to fulfill. So it is supposed to provide disaggregated data to panchayats on 577 indicators, development indicators, which are basically, which I'll just explain, which is across all the 9 themes that we spoke about. The 9 themes, which are basically, when we talked about the local indicator framework in the LSDG, were 169 indicators, if you remember, and 169 targets and 389 indicators, which is now expanded or simplified to 577 indicators, because at the village level, there'll be very different contexts, and you may need to have many more as we move along. The PDI, the Panchayat Development Index, is an aggregation of development performance parameters, indicators based on the thematic areas and the localized area indicator framework. So I hope I'm sort of, building this together for you, and that is what we were attempting. The components of PDI, data, grades, etc., which I'll come to, primarily for us to understand, there are 9 large localized themes. There are targets, which I just mentioned, from 169 to has been simplified to 144 in the PDI, and the indicators have improved or increased from 389 to 577. The calculation of PDI, it's an arithmetic mean presently, there is no weightages. There's an arithmetic mean of 9 thematic scores, where the thematic score, each thematic score is an arithmetic mean of the number of indicators in those within that theme. So what are these indicators? The country is, the MOPR, and with consultation from the states and the ministries, has come out with a list of 577 indicators across the 9 themes. These are common, 444 common indicators, and 133 specific indicators, which are more specific to the different contexts of different panchayats. The report also talk about what is priority indicators. Priority indicators means what are the priorities at the nation, at the state, at the block, at the district, etc., these levels, and also which have been articulated in documents such as the Mission Antodaya survey, because it has 157 indicators on the Mission Antodaya survey. So that means these are basically infrastructure related indicators, which have been prioritized for each panchayat. There's a National Panchayat Award, which has 90 indicators, that's the NPA, which again is basically to say that these 90 indicators are important to the country, and therefore if the Panchayat works on that, it is something that should be recognized and rewarded. And in the GPDP, which I mentioned, the Gram Panchayat Development Plan, there are 181 indicators which the ministry has, sort of summarized to say that these are the indicators which the panchayats can actually have a maximum impact on. So out of these, the panchayats can, if they are able to understand till now whatever I've said to you, they can identify what should be their priority. Basis that, what is the third category, which is called a mandatory? It is this circle inside. The mandatory is basically a number. So we took some time to read this in the report, sir. So these are number of indicators which a panchayat should act on. So the proposal was, in 1 year, the panchayat should at least take 100 indicators. So those 100 indicators, if it comes as a mandate from the ministry or the state, then those panchayats, from the priority and the common specific indicators, are to choose those 100 indicators. And basically, the report very clearly mentions, although it is not followed, at least in the last GPDP, because every state told the panchayats to either work on clean and green village or water sufficient village. So I know that's not happening, but it is fine. I mean, we are starting this on. But the report very clearly mentions that as a local government, the panchayats are to take decisions on the priority as well as the mandatory number of indicators. So this is just an example. There was a proof of concept study done in Maharashtra across several districts, and this is one of the panchayats, Pargaon Panchayat, which if you can see, the color coding is basically to say the green is the best, and then followed by the yellow if the color is not visible, then the orange, and then the red. So each of these panchayats, basically, this panchayat has this score in each of these themes, and the rows below are basically the overall targets and indicators from which they were calculated, and the total PDI here for this panchayat is 62.5. She's showing me the timers. I'm going to take 5 minutes more. Yeah. At the panchayat level, we wanted to sort of visualize how it will pan out when I have this LSDG and PDI. So I am imagining that at a panchayat, there should be a nice visualization of the PDI to say that these are the 577 indicators. This is where your panchayat stands. And that should be in a big screen like this, maybe bigger, and all of the panchayat members and the community sit there, and then they say, oh, this is what we are. This is where we are in engendered panchayat. This is where we are in zero hunger. And they start, and they go through each theme, etc. Basis that, the Gram Panchayat Development Plan is formed. Basis, the panchayat and the community decide on their priorities, and they form the GPDP. And then the implementation starts, right? And basis that, the status of year 2 should change. Is what is, I'm hoping, was the imagination of the committee, and this is how we were just sort of thinking that if we are able to do this, how will it work? These are basically the number of grades that, A, B, C, the country and the block and the district can divide panchayats basis the several grades that they have. For the ministries and for even CSRs, for companies who want to engage at village level, these are inputs for targeted interventions. Which panchayats should I focus on? Which theme should I focus on, etc. For a panchayat, in Maharashtra, for example, in all 30 GPs, and again, Mr. Sunil Kumar, you mentioned that engendered panchayats does not find priority. Here also, all GPs in the 30 panchayats were in grade C as far as this particular theme was concerned. So it's a nice point of reflection for the community as to where are we on this, right? This is just an arithmetic table. I wish the world was like that. But yeah, if panchayats keep taking indicators year on year, then we hope that in the next 6-7 years we reach the 570 target. This is an important slide, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes. This is a data that is going to be the bedrock of the PDI. And if we don't get this together, there is no point having the PDI and the LSDG. So we've tried to categorize this. Data, as we see, there are 577 indicators, and there are 688 data points, which I'll mention. So if you look at this quadrant, data falls in these categories. So data which is available for Gram Panchayat as a unit, and it is digitized. So which is basically, where what needs to be done is to have an API linkage, basically linking the data from the ministry's dashboard to the PDI. Yeah. These are basically programs which are implemented at the village level, and the data is available at least at the village level. So this is like Manrega, NRLM, PMAY, etc. Then there is data which is digitized, but data is not available for GP as a unit. So it may be available for the beneficiaries, for example, the National Social Assistance Program, or the ICDS, which is available for Anganwadis. So the data does exist, but we have to what is being called as a LGD coding, which is basically putting the code of that particular panchayat so that it gets aggregated at the panchayat level. So that is a second category. The third basically is data which is not digitized but is available at the panchayat level, which there we have to start looking at digitization. And the last one, not available for GP as a unit, not digitized. These we have to do surveys, we have to think of different other methods. If the data is going to be available, and we all know that the quality of data is suspect. I mean, not for various reasons. It's not because people are faking data. It is just that it's too large. Now, what we think is, what will happen with this data is if the common man starts looking at the data which is available to me, I will know exactly, right, what is the health of my primary health center, whether doctor comes or not. So if the data says something else, I'm able to sort of relate to the data very quickly. So with everyone accessing and with it being in the public domain, we are hoping that this, the quality of this data over time is going to be improving drastically. So to yield results, we have to get everyone in this room, outside, the whole of government, whole of society, to believe in the primacy and capacity of communities and panchayats. And this is a nice one. It's a WhatsApp thing, but I think all of us have to sort of train ourselves on technology, including the village, So what are the apps? E-Gram Swaraj, PMAY, then PDI, real names, right? So we have to start looking at that also here. Finally, the capacity building, the RGSA budget is supposed to be 850 crores, but the report quotes that with convergence of various ministries and departments on their efforts towards localization and capacity buildings should amount to 10,000 crores, which is a substantive budget, which hopefully will, sort of add to this thing. And this is my last slide on the strengths, and it's there in a report. There's a printout available, which so I'll not deal with it much now, but I just wanted to say that in terms of strength, I think the first top point for each I will elaborate on, a holistic measure to capture SDGs at village level. So this is something which is very ambitious, but it has a concept, a huge strength which has a huge potential. In terms of the weakness, we are not just the panchayat members, I mean all of us are not that data. It took us several weeks to understand what was written in the PDI. So just to sort of see how data savvy people are and what they understand with this entire framework is going to be quite a job. And the data is not real time. And whether a single PDI, these are questions that we have to think about. In terms of threats, so already the sarpanch and the secretary are the people who decide on plans. Because it's become so complicated, right? You should have 3 themes. You should be adhering to the VPRP. You should look at this There's several things. So already they are excluded. The chances of exclusion may get even furthered if we are going to make it so digitalized and so indicator based. Many states have their own systems, panchayat level systems. How will that integrate with this? Of course, that's the ministry is going to think of that. Data primacy we spoke about. In terms of opportunity, I think it's a huge opportunity to this one point. If we are able to start working on, I think it's a big benefit for everybody working at the village and for development at large in the country, which is availability of GP-wise data in all departments. If we are able to do that, if that opportunity is met, I think we will move forward very substantively. Just one last point on targeted interventions. The last point of we haven't mentioned here. In fact, I think the space was an issue. Basically, the kind of conversations in a village may undergo some change, because we are not talking of agriculture, we're not talking of water, but we're talking about hunger, we're talking about poverty, we are talking about women empowerment. So the way people talk about, what does it mean, what does engendered panchayat mean, may undergo change if we are going to take this to the village level. So thank you very much, and yeah, I hope that was it.
Thank you, Sonali, for your detailed insights on reports of LSDGs and Panchayat Development Index. And I'm sure it is going to put a thought in everyone's mind to process and, initiate this further. With this, we have come to a tea break, which will be of 15 minutes. So I think we are already running ahead of time by 30 minutes. So we will expect you to come back by 12:15 at the same place, and the tea arrangement has been done towards your left. Thank you.